They tell you to be selfless your whole life. They call it a virtue. But if I could go back, if I could whisper one truth into the ear of my 24-year-old self, it would be this: be selfish sooner. I know that sounds terrible, maybe even cold, but trust me, I lived 8 decades trapped inside a glass box, terrified of the one thing that never existed. I spent my youth agonizing over what the neighbors thought, what my mother's bridge club would gossip about, or what the man next door would say if I didn't follow the straight, predictable line. My whole life was one big performance for an audience of absolute no one. The fear started early. Back then in the 50s and 60s, conformity was survival. You wore the right skirt length, you got the right job, something safe. You married the right type of boy. If you stepped outside that line even slightly, the whispers started. I remember seeing Cheryl Peterson try to start a painting business. People laughed her right out of the town square. I watched that happen, and something clicked inside me. The fear of being ridiculed, of being that woman, it was physically painful. So I learned quickly, don't give them anything to talk about. Just fade into the wallpaper. I didn't take the scholarship. That's probably the easiest one to name. It was to study history in Boston, a big, scary city. But the thought of leaving my parents and having the entire town question my decision felt unbearable. Why would you leave security? Is the girl too proud for us now? Instead, I took a job at the local bank, 3 blocks from my childhood bedroom. It was safe. It was approved. Every payday, when I cashed my small check, I felt a deep ache. That ache was the ghost of who I might have been, stuck forever in that small town, because I couldn't bear the thought of judgment. And the marriage. Oh, the marriage to Terry. I loved Terry, of course, eventually. But I married him largely because he was the perfect fit for the audience. He had a good job at the refinery, he was kind, and he was approved by everyone. He didn't challenge me, he didn't rock the boat. I didn't marry him because he was the fire in my soul. I married him because he was respectable. When I look back at the handful of men I truly felt a spark for, they were always too eccentric, too artistic, too loud. They would have caused a stir, and I couldn't risk the stir. So I chose quiet contentment, which turned into decades of quiet compromise. This monitoring became exhausting, you know. It wasn't just the big things, it was everything. I wouldn't buy the bright red dress, I'd buy the sensible navy one. I wouldn't speak up in committee meetings, even when I had the right answer, just in case my tone was deemed too sharp for a woman. I taught myself to smile and nod and agree, even when my insides were screaming disagreement. I curated my entire personality down to the most boring, neutral version possible. I was trying so hard to be flawless in the eyes of everyone else that I forgot to be real in the eyes of myself. The turning point came late. Too late, really. Terry passed away 7 years ago. The house was so quiet. For the first time in 60 years, I was truly alone. and suddenly the invisible audience was gone. My children, bless their hearts, they had their own lives, their own children, their own audiences to worry about. I looked around the funeral home at all the people who came to pay respects, and I realized something shocking. I didn't know half of them. And the ones I did know, they weren't judging me. They were just sad for Terry. My entire life had been governed by the phantom fear of people who were barely acquaintances. I walked into the kitchen the week after the service and looked at my refrigerator calendar. Empty. No dinners to host, no committees to attend, no one left to impress. I felt this huge wave of panic because I didn't know who I was supposed to be when the show was over. All that emotional energy I'd spent worrying about the opinions of people like my difficult sister Mildred, or the lady down the street who owned the flower shop, it was wasted. They had been too busy living their own messy, beautiful, judgmental lives to truly care about the details of mine. I wept that afternoon, not because I was sad, but because I was furious at myself for giving away so much power. I lost so much time. I didn't learn the piano until I was 79, and my fingers don't work as well now. I didn't travel until last year, and I need a cane to manage the cobbled streets. The biggest cost wasn't just the things I didn't do, but the quiet, constant pressure I put on my own soul. It's like living underwater, always pushing against the pressure of the depth. When you worry about being judged, you stop taking risks. You stop voicing the beautiful, unique thoughts that only you have. You silence your true self, day after day, year after year, until one day you wake up and you're a supporting character in your own life. I understand now what true selfishness is. It's not hoarding money or being cruel to your family. True selfishness is the radical act of protecting your own dreams, your own peace, and your own authentic self. It's choosing your own adventure over the comfortable script written for you by others. It's saying, I am going to do this thing purely because it brings me joy, and I will not apologize for it. That is the freedom I chased my whole life without realizing that I held the key the entire time. It wasn't out there. It was always inside. When you are young, you see the world as a judgmental place waiting to pounce. When you are old, you see the world as desperately busy and mostly distracted. Nobody is sitting around discussing your failings as often as you think they are. They are worried about their mortgage, their children's homework, their boss, and their own invisible audience. You are a passing thought, a brief mention, not the main character in their daily conversation. That realization should be freeing, not frightening. It means you can be the messiest, wildest, most authentic version of yourself. And the worst thing that happens is a moment of mild curiosity from someone who immediately goes back to thinking about themselves. So, listen closely to an 84-year-old woman who ran out of time. Stop asking permission to live. Stop filtering your joy. If you want to dye your hair purple, dye it. If you want to quit your job and start that crazy business, do it. If you want to move across the country and leave the familiar faces behind, pack the car. Because when you get to my age, the regrets that burn the hottest are never the mistakes you made while trying. They are the beautiful, vibrant lives you failed to live because you were too scared of a jury that never showed up. Do not let that fear steal one more day from you. Be selfish with your time. Be selfish with your spirit. Protect your dreams like a dragon guards its gold. The only person you have to face every morning in the mirror, and the only person who will hold you accountable at the end, is yourself. Trust me when I say this. When you're 84, you won't care what they said. You will only care about what you dared to do. Go live your life loudly. Go make some noise.